LSG, welcome. What's up, everybody? Hopefully everybody's been having a great day. What's up, Genomorphing? What's up, guys? Glad to see you in. Man, I gotta say, it's quite an exciting day, isn't it? Like, nobody really expected this. What's up, Bam Bam? What's up, guys? Just starting up the chat now. And I gotta ask you guys, what are your thoughts about this whole thing? If you've heard it already, about the Steam machine, you got the Steam frame, you have a brand new Steam controller that's going to be released. That's going to be quite interesting, and it's actually exciting because now it's something that Xbox is obviously going to have to answer for. Like, how's Phil Spencer going to answer to his shareholders about a situation like this? And hopefully you guys, but I gotta say, 28 CUs is actually pretty decent for a PC. It really is a PC. It's not even really a console. It has SteamOS in it, so you could really do a lot of the PC tasks that you would want to do on something like this. Hook it up to a nice display, maybe a 32-inch. Absolutely, Steam is certainly bringing the flames, I have to say. How many of you are actually interested in getting this Steam machine? You know what I'm actually highly interested in? I'm super interested in getting the Steam frame. Just because I've always heard great things about VR headsets, and that you could actually finally take this on the go without needing a device to hook up to with the Steam frame. So you could actually play your games, you could play all your Steam games, and the controllers on top of it are motion control, so they have the gyroscopic sensing on there, plus with the Hall effects sticks, which are next generation Hall effect sticks with the haptic feedbacks. I think it's going to be quite a combination that they're going to come out with. And I feel that more than likely it seems that the world's pretty much ready for the next thing that Steam is going to bring out. Because if you guys are familiar with Steam already, they've attempted to try to bring something like this before. They did try to bring the Steam console home, but unfortunately it didn't quite succeed because with the whole console generation back then, they weren't as familiar with Steam as much as PC users. But now, much more people certainly know about Steam. So I've heard that Zach Sturf, that we might not get supers because of the AI. Yeah, you know what? The frames, I think so too. But he's correct. I do believe. What's up, Miss Ja? Welcome in. I do have to say he's going to be correct on the most part when it comes to that. I believe the same exact situation. I don't think NVIDIA is going to be focused on the whole super lineup just quite yet. It would be a nice surprise if they do somehow just pop up at CES 2026 coming up. It's going to start January 5th. First, obviously, we're going to the whole AMD conference. And maybe NVIDIA will come out with some surprise. But the probability seems that it's going to be such a low chance. And I have a very good feeling that we're not going to see it till probably this time next year. Originally, I thought maybe GTC, they might bring it up, which is usually in March. And then they do have Computex in May. And in May, it seems like they're not going to quite have the supply. It does seem that a lot of memory companies out there are certainly wanting to come out with more types of memory. Because currently, they do have LPDDR6, which they do want to bring into the market. And unfortunately, because of the shortage of memory, it's also going to affect video cards because of it. So that's just the unfortunate case when it comes down to the Super Series. So if anybody does want to get a video card, AMD and NVIDIA, their current generation that they do have, is certainly good to get, especially if you're looking for anything for 4K gaming. Yes, and I agree. They're going to push it back and then release it like a new gen card and only give it like 3% uplift. I think for the most part, if I haven't told everybody about this, when it comes to the whole next generation NVIDIA cards. It's not going to be that much of a difference when it comes to clock speeds or when it comes to their boost clocks. The biggest difference that you will see in these cards are going to be the VRAM. So you're going to have, at least, for example, on a 5070 Ti, instead of just having 16 gigabytes of VRAM, more than likely you're going to get around 18 to 20 gigabytes of VRAM. And same when it comes to the 5080 Super. It's going to be pretty much the same way. The 5080 Super will actually push up to 24 gigabytes, which is certainly the sweet spot, especially now when it comes to 4K gaming. What's up, Random? What's up, Kin? Welcome, guys. Thank you for coming in. Welcome, everybody. I'm Chris Mizo. I talk about PC and tech. You can feel free to ask any questions. Don't feel like you're interfering with the chat at all. I certainly do love to answer any type of questions that anybody does pose out there. If you're coming from console, you're thinking about switching over to Steam Machine, feel free to mention that because I would love to hear from you and see the exact reason why you are also interested in that. So, hear me out. I'm going to wait for the upcoming new AMD CPUs hype to quiet down. Then replace my 7800X3D with the 9950X3D with pocket change. Not a bad idea, honestly. NVIDIA driver update is really good already. I gotta say I haven't had any complaints. They certainly been a lot better since release, I can say. But I do agree with you. Genomorph. Certainly, it's worth getting the 9950X3D. If anybody is thinking of it, especially for anyone that is interested in doing any type of gaming and productivity, it is the top silicon CPU out there. In fact, AMD uses only the best when it comes to AMD Ryzen 9950X3D. So you can certainly get quite well temperatures. You can get great curve optimizations. Your PBO2 will be set perfectly. 9950X3D is certainly like the golden chip. Of course, you can always wait for CES 2026. Allegedly, there are some more CPUs coming out. There are indications. I didn't really get to look into it just quite yet, but there's apparently a 7500X3D also. Now, this isn't going off of what the hoax was. Apparently, last week when you saw those benchmark numbers where they were from Geekbench. And apparently with Geekbench, somebody faked those numbers. They actually faked it through Linux to make it seem like those were legit benchmarks. But obviously it doesn't have 8 cores and 16 threads. And that was kind of an indication where it wasn't a true benchmark. But a lot of news outlets actually went with it. So GG Bo4, he says, I recently just got a Gigabyte 5070 Ti WindForce overclock. I was unaware at the time what SFF stands for, small form factor. Is it in any way worse in terms? No. So it's not going to be any worse in performance because you got a small form factor type of GPU. That's not a big deal. It's just going to be a bit more compact. And if anything, it's going to be meant to release the temperatures a lot better. It's supposed to get better airflow because of it. So like if it was in a smaller build, it's able to breathe. So that's the main key. That's why it's a small form factor, and obviously it wants to fit in something smaller, but it's not going to affect any type of performance. And you could certainly still do the same thing as you would with a regular GPU. So do you think they'll release a Super and a Ti Super? Possibility. What's up, Frozen? Good to see you here. I meant like for the new CPUs. Okay, so the 9950X3D. So what Xenomorph is talking about, there is allegedly a new CPU that is coming out. It's going to be like a second gen for the 9950X3D, but we won't know until we get more information on it until CES 2026. Same thing where they're supposed to come out with a middle ground of a 9800X3D. It's practically the same core counts, the 8 cores and 16 threads, but instead they're going to double the V-cache, which is going to be great for anybody out there, especially for using it for gaming use. That's something that can certainly be useful. Now, this is going to apparently have 600 megahertz, much more of a boost clock when it comes to the 9850X 3D. Allegedly, that's what the idea of what they possibly could call it. And when it comes to the 9950X 3D, they're not really changing the name of it. They're just calling it 9950X 3D version 2. So for that, it's just going to be double the V cache of that. Excuse Jonah back there. He's just scratching the floor if anybody's wondering what that sound is. So I'm going for no cable look for my PC. The only way I can't hide is the GPU cable. Corsair sells that power bridge that allows you. Are these power bridges any good? They're simply great for if you want the aesthetics, but they're certainly not gimmicky. But you could do it if you like. But again, there's other ways you can certainly hide video cables. Take a look at MSI's GPU. In fact, they do have something similar to like the Sapphire Nitro Plus. But if you look at their card, it's on their 5070 Ti, in fact, to where you can actually hide the cable. I would say look into something like that. And I think it's going to be a lot more apparent now when it comes to new GPUs, when it comes to hiding cables, because they know it's just not aesthetically pleasing to have a power cable sticking out like that. And of course, it could get in the way of the case if it's not wide enough. So, Simply Takuma, good to see you here. MJ Build. So, what's up? Ryzen 5 7600X and a RX 7600. Is this good? Yeah, I mean, it's certainly good to start streaming. What type of are you planning to game and stream at the same time? What's that? Oh, right now he's just laying next to me. At first he was scratching up the floor. For some reason, he has this great idea that he thinks that if he scratches up the floor back there, that he can just lay down and make it more flat. But unfortunately, it's not like any type of terrain. It's not grass. So it's just straight up wood. So it's not really doing much. Now, he's kind of relaxed and he's just laying next to the PC, actually. So is the 96 gigabytes 4-stick CL36 7000 for 360? Man, isn't it crazy how expensive RAM is? That's just like 360 is actually. I'm so used to hearing the pricing of like what it should be that hearing 360 is still a lot. Oh yeah, he likes to move around, but now he seems like he's chill. DDR5. So since it's DDR5 CL36 7000 megahertz. And that's the cost of shipping with, I'd say, that's like probably just barely fair for the most part. I can't say it's perfect, but I'd say it's fair pricing. I feel like it should be a better deal. CL36 is still kind of a high latency for that pricing. That's what's throwing me off there, but it's not terrible. I'd say it's at definitely that fair pricing. It's not perfect. NVIDIA driver got another, that's what I'm seeing. A lot of people are coming in with that. Unfortunately, with the studio drivers, I know in this PC, there's nothing new. DDR5 RAM for Intel or AMD build. There's Takuma at it. He's going to definitely give you the answer you're looking for. So okay. So most importantly, for anybody out there who is looking to build with the AMD build, you certainly want to look for something that's between CL30 or under. You could get, when it comes to the megahertz side of it, if you're looking for the bus speed, at least 6,000 megahertz or higher to get the best performance. Now you can go up as high as 6,400 megahertz. And for those who would like to experiment or try to do some tweaking when it comes to RAM, then it's certainly good to work within that range. Now, especially because DDR5, which is the most stable, especially with 4 sticks. Expo, so if anybody doesn't know what Expo is, that's when the memory runs together in the same synchrony. So that's what's usually used for tweaking your memory. It's almost like a profile. It's just a profile similar to what XMP is. It's just AMD's version is called Expo compared to XMP. So buy your M.2 before they, yes, M.2. And I feel that I'm warning everybody about GPUs already because it not only will it affect, just like the whole RAM side, but just remember that GPUs also take VRAM as well, so it could certainly affect it. It might not affect it now. In fact, you are probably going to get it for very good pricing if you look at GPUs now. In fact, a lot of them are a lot lower priced than what they usually are. So another thing I do have to say, anybody that's just coming in, let me know if you're also interested in any of the Steam hardware that's been released. We got the Steam Machine, we also got the Steam Frame, and the Steam Controller. Now, the two things that certainly intrigue me are certainly the Steam Controller and definitely the Steam Frame. The Steam Machine, I'm not going to honestly really care much about it, but it's great for those that have a older PC and just wants the game. In fact, maybe you want something to hook up to your entertainment system, to your TV, or maybe you just want to hook it up to just like a nice single 32-inch monitor, which is great. Again, it's more than likely the pricing, they haven't quite announced it, but it's supposedly about 28 CUs. So that's going to be a lot closer to like an AMD 7600. So for anybody thinking of a combination like that, you could certainly look into it. More than likely, the pricing is probably going to be around maybe that $400 to $500 range, if I were to guess, with the specifications announced. So yes, AMD and Intel use different DDR5 profiles. XMP runs better with Intel. Yes. I'm not interested in the Steam hardware. Today, I designed a build for a new PC that I'm about to buy, but still in the... Oh, what did you get? Let us know. Would love to know what you have on your PC parts list. So if anybody doesn't know out there, I'm Chris Mizo. I talk about PC and tech. Feel free to bring in and ask any questions that you like. It's an open chat. Also, you can feel free to join the Discord link. It's right down in the description box down below, and join the roundtable if you'd like. It's our memberships for our page, and I promise you it's not nowhere as costly as Xbox Game Pass. Also, if the Discord's free, just to let everybody know, you can just join in the Discord. You can feel free to post up pictures of your PC build. If you have questions about your PC parts and you're trying to gather up a list to figure out what type of compilation that you would like to do. Also, I am going to certainly mention a lot more great deals coming up soon, which is going to be on Black Friday. I know we all can't wait for that, especially for those who are trying to build a PC, which is only about 2 weeks away. So was looking at a Samsung M.2. Those weren't around last time I built a PC. Are these used as the HD, or are they supposed to be faster? Are you talking about the NVMe side? Now, when it comes to M.2, yes. When it comes to NVMe, it's going to be a lot quicker compared to seeing those 2.5-inch solid-state drives. Now, those 2.5-inch solid-state drives, they originally only could go up to about 700 megabytes per second at the max. Now, with these newer drives, depending on what type of build that you're going with, even if it's PCI Express 4, you're going to see much quicker speeds, even up to 7,000 megabytes per second when it comes to those solid-state drives. Actually, this week, I will be coming out with a video based on that, the top solid-state drives that you can certainly get. So make sure you stay tuned for that. It'll be coming out, should be out by Sunday. So Ken says you get what you paid for. Better GPU or CPU? GPU, you gotta go GPU if you're running games. Check the round table group. Okay. All right, I will certainly check it. Now, I will also feature anybody on here on Discord if you would like. And wow, that is interesting. So I'm going to share this with everybody out there by the round table. Let me just swap it out real quick, guys. Just take a second. And so if you take a look here, let me bring that down. There we go. So take a look at that, guys. Let me adjust that. Apologize for that. So we're going to zoom in on this. And that is a bit interesting. That heatsink, I got to say. Definitely unique. I would say this would look like something that would go into like some sort of like Star Wars / Starfield type of build if you were going that direction. At 2 terabytes, 980 Storm M.2. So it even has like the Samsung-like name. It's funny, it's made by XPG. And why does it have feet? That's interesting. 108,990 feet. This can't be serious. That's funny. I couldn't tell you what that is. I never personally tried something like this. I gotta say, it does look interesting. It would be great for any of those type of theme builds if anybody's interested in doing something like that. There's a lot of white PC builds that are currently hot right now, especially like the Gigabyte X3D boards. Man, a lot of them are the Ice Edition, so whether you get the Ors Elites, Ors Master, they look phenomenal. And especially, it's funny, Takuma and I, we were just talking about that earlier, about the whole BTF type of builds. And if you're not familiar with BTF builds, they're practically motherboards, but instead of having your typical connections up into the front of the motherboard where you would usually connect it, it's on the back. So a lot of new cases are featuring where you're able to hook up these BTF boards. It seems that it's slowly coming up in popularity as more and more people are getting a bit more interested in it. So I worked, let's see, just going back right here. I don't want to talk about what it is, my parts list, how much time I spent. It's funny how obsessive you could really get with parts. A lot of people, I'll tell you, anybody in here will certainly tell you this. Once you build a PC and you're already done, you can be finished your PC build. You're still going to look at PC hardware no matter what. I guarantee you. It's going to become something like, how can I make this PC rig better? How can I make it faster? It's like tuning a car. If you're into tuning cars, it's the same way. How can I make it quicker? It's the same way with the PC. Even aesthetically, how can I make the PC look nicer? I mean, like we were talking about swapping out a whole case, Takuma and I. So just imagine just looking at cases, just willing to swap out. It's practically like building a PC all over again. So no GPU in the build because I'm going to use my old GTX 1060. Nothing wrong with it. If that's what you got to do, it's going to work temporarily. There's plenty of builders out there. I've done it myself to where I've used my older GPU in order to just keep it going temporarily until I can improve my GPU. And as long as if you got something in there to where you have your PC usable, again, nothing wrong with that. I don't. So do they just plug into the motherboard looking at X870 boards? So yes, they practically just plug into the motherboard. You're going to look on the ATX side. If you're looking BTF, everything's going to be in the back side, which I can show you momentarily. So MJ Build says, I work abroad and started flipping PCs. Right now, I have newly built i5-12400F, 16 gigabytes of RAM, RTX 3060 Ti, 650 watts PSU. Any thoughts about it? It's a great starter build for anybody out there that's looking for a PC just to start off with. Great type of PC for Fortnite players out there, Battle Royale type of players. It's still very usable. I'd say it's a decent build, and it's still within this generation because it's still, is it? Now, the thing I do have to ask you, when you say 16 gigabytes of RAM, I'm assuming it's DDR5. Is it DDR5 or what type of... Oh, thank you for subscribing. Appreciate it. Thank you for subscribing. Certainly appreciate it. Have to relearn a lot of stuff. So much has changed. Yes, it's quite evolved when it comes to the whole PC world. But again, feel free to ask. There's not really any dumb questions. Especially for those who've been out of the PC building game for say 5 or 6 years. And even longer, there's people out there that hasn't done a build in maybe 10 years. And it's quite changed dramatically. But I promise you, it's a lot easier than what it originally was. Because before, it was required of you to connect, say, like, again, the 2.5 SSD drives. You would have to make sure you had a clear bay. But now that's not as important. NVMe's just kind of cleared the path of that. The only thing is I suggest is if you do install your NVMe, just make sure to install it first before you hook up any graphics card, because more than likely it's going to get in the way. That's the only negative thing when it comes to modern PCs, which we can certainly bring up there. So when your M.2 card flies away, the build is okay. It has 2 internal fans, helicopter. The i5 is up to user if they want overclock. FPS games faster. So If I can go back to build my PC build, I would rather get one the 5600 over the 5600G. But the 5600G was on sale. That's normal because usually you're going to go after what's on sale first. There's nothing wrong with getting anything on sale. I remember like going to Best Buy and just getting a GPU because I was trying to upgrade my GPU. Wasn't the greatest. I ended up going with, what was it at the time? I think it was a 1060. No, even before then. I think it was more like a 80 at 8. I think it was like 870 or something like that. 870 way back then. And when I upgraded to that, it felt like a big performance change. And then naturally, when you're in PC building, you just want bigger. And then by the time I realized, and this was a mortal sin that I was doing at the time anyway, because the PC that I actually had at that time, which was around that 2012, 2013 era, when I had that PC, I bought a pre-built PC on sale. And I chose that. I thought this would be just the easy option for me to get back into gaming. But almost immediately soon after, I ended up upgrading the power supply. I got the GPU. And then I looked at the motherboard, realized it was a custom one built for that PC. And I said, you know, what the hell? I'm just going to build a brand new PC at this point. Ended up selling that PC and started building a brand new PC, which was the 12. No, it wasn't the 12th generation Intel. In fact, this was the 4970K Devil's Canyon. So simply Takuma RGB bothers my eyes. Again, like that's why I'm going to do this whole Project Ninja. I think this would be nice. And I know there's some people out there that want to build a PC without the violation of RGBs in their eyes. Especially when you're trying to go to sleep and then all of a sudden you turn over and they kick on. Especially if you have your PC in your room, that's quite annoying. Or if it's like even if it's across the hallway, RGBs can be pretty bright. So as soon as that kicks on, you'll hear those fans kick on your PC, and then all of a sudden you see this bright bluish, pinkish, purplish glow from across the hall, and you know it's your PC. So my current build is coming close to 15 years old. Oh, that's awesome. What is your build, by the way? Like, what is your complete build? 5600G runs high frequency for base clock. Current problem with my build: GTX 1060, PCI Express 3. It's funny because I remember when PCI Express 3 came out, they had those red bus. It had like a red bus to let you know it was PCI Express 3. And I thought that was like just life-changing having something like that. But then it isn't black because of all the RGB fans. Genomorph 9539. But I think GT processor doesn't make sense. Better get a plain processor to gain more performance, because in the end, at a line, you still need the GPU. Absolutely. If anybody's building a PC, the GPU is the most vital and most important part of your PC. The reason being is because that is the key. That is like the heart when it comes to gaming, especially for anyone that is going for a gaming build. Or maybe you're into 3D modeling. That's also required to have a 3D type of application. You're going to need a graphics card in order to be able to perform the task properly or be able to game properly. So having a decent GPU and a not so great CPU is not really a bad combination. For example, you could have like a RX 9070 XT, and then you can have something maybe like a say like a 7600, just the plain 7600, and you would game perfectly fine because there is no bottleneck at the CPU. The thing is, you don't want the opposite. If you get the opposite, you have a stronger CPU than GPU, that's when you experience the bottleneck, and that's when it hurts your performance, especially when it comes to gaming. So I will join you on Discord and post. Yeah, feel free. Thank you guys for all coming in. I see you guys over at Twitch. Thank you for coming in. Yeah, AM5 get motherboard compatible for PCI Express 5 for the latest GPU. So you look like a person that knows a lot. So, okay, what's up, Springtime? Like, what type of monitor are you looking for? Are you looking for 4K? You're looking for ultra wide? You're looking for 1080p? You're looking for high refresh rates? OLED? Takuma, like when you tell Takuma something, he will go at you. He will certainly come at you. Alienware AW2723DF is 290 euros. Okay, so let me share everybody what type of display he's showing here. So just to share 3DF, here we go. Let me just switch over to the browser here. Now, if you guys aren't familiar, Alienware is like a well-known brand when it comes to the gaming PC side. Nothing wrong with Alienware components here. Oh, let me drag that down. Looks like you got some deals here. So this is a 27-inch QHD. So usually something like this is going to be like an IPS panel. More than likely it's, yep, at 1440. So it's kind of like, it's not truly like a true ultra wide. If you're going to pick the panel, that's funny. They actually let you pick out of the website. Now, I don't know if you have any specific one, but more than likely, you're probably going to end up getting either the fast IPS Nano or the IPS are both great. OLED would be really nice, but again, it's like you'll pay a lot more money if you choose to go OLED. Now, it has 280 hertz. AMD. So anytime you see this whole adaptive sync, when it says AMD FreeSync or you see G-Sync, now any monitor that has high refresh rates, regardless if it's 180 hertz, 240 hertz, 360 hertz, even as high as up to like 520 hertz to say, even those monitors are all going to be compatible with any graphics card. Now, you're probably more than curious to see if this is a very good display for you to be able to game on. I'm assuming that's your whole purpose on this monitor. OLED is certainly the king. So yes, it will be perfect for that. I mean, Takuma has a lineup of 5090s. He doesn't play. He has like a whole lineup. Any brand that you mention, he has it. he has Asus, he has Gigabyte, he has MSI. You don't want to touch his 5090s. 280 hertz overclock base, 240. Yes, I mean, it's great. This is good enough. Honestly, 240 hertz is certainly going to be like the new baseline. If anybody has noticed when it comes to displays, it's more than like 144 hertz is like no longer like the minimum now. It seems that 240 hertz is certainly the minimum when it comes to displays. So if you take a look at any display out there, you're going to see it usually at 240 hertz at the minimum. So expect that to be more mainline and mainstreamed. But this is great for anybody that wants to get into competitive shooters, or if you're like competitive into something like Fortnite. 240 hertz will certainly justify the cost for sure. So, dude, I want to build. Yeah, that's like Project Ninja there. That's right, Genomorph. There's nothing wrong. CS Squawk, what's up? Oh my God, Curtis, I finally fixed my RTX 5090 issue I mentioned months ago. Monitor randomly turns black, GPU fans go max speed, and computer crash until... Oh, great. You figured out the issue. Was it the driver issue? Almost sounds like a driver issue. That sounds exactly like a driver issue. So... Xenomorph 9539, they are plenty of black fans. Noctua, yeah, Noctua, nothing wrong with that. Noctua's reflexes, pretty awesome, I gotta say. It's fast IPS. Yes, it's a great deal. 240 hertz for 290 euros for 14. Yeah, 1440 is actually great. I'm not sure if I haven't tested it personally, but I can tell you, I can certainly attest to their panels. Their panels are excellent when it comes to their displays. So if you see a great deal for 290 euros, that's actually not a bad deal at all. I would certainly hop on it. Now, the only thing you might not like about the IPS display, it might be a little bit heavier than you expect, but it's not going to really affect gameplay in any way. More than likely, are you using the base for it? Because I do see that dimensions are a little bit thicker, but again, there's nothing wrong with that. Most importantly, it's going to be great for when you actually game on the panel itself. As soon as I used the 12 volt high power port, that split fixed it. Oh, there you go. You know, that's a tricky situation. What's up, Ivan? Not a question, but just an appreciate. Yeah, no problem, Ivan. Thank you for coming in. So buy it straight away if it's on a deal. Apparently on 12-volt high power port cable that comes out with the GPU is needed for load balance properly. Yes. Okay. Yeah, there you go. I know certain GPUs can get really finicky when it comes to that, but if that balance it out, that certainly could do the trick there. Yes. Speaking of the case swap, I tried to get all the parts today. Oh man, it's, you know what's funny? I know all of you are guilty of this, of midnight shopping. Like, you know you should be sleeping, but for some weird reason you're on Amazon trying to buy PC parts, or you're trying to buy something off of Amazon. You're just like, I can't just sleep quite yet. I can't sleep soundly until I finally get this part. And that's, I think we're all guilty of that. That one that splits into four, yeah, that's quite crazy. Yeah, no problem, Springtime. And anybody just coming in, make sure you like and subscribe, and follow. So Rugel's here, and he says, talking of monitors, what are your thoughts on the Gen 4 OLEDs? They were just released. Yes, it's quite interesting. They got the whole tandem OLEDs now. That's certainly going to change the game quite a bit. I think they're going to be excellent. It's been long needed, especially when it comes to this side of the market here. And actually, let's take a look at it. I'm going to show you tandem OLEDs. Right here. We're going to go to the news side and right here. And they look excellent, I gotta say, for the most part. Again, the lowest input delay when it comes to monitors currently on OLED, and for those who are going quite crazy for it. I'm using the OLED G880 SD from Samsung. Lots of restrictions in my custom cooling loop, so going to use the two D5 pumps should I get dual top or put two independents in the series. So, okay, so you have a custom loop going to two D5 pumps. I would say, if you're going to do this, if you're going to use like dual pumps, I would say definitely go, see, dual top would save space, but if you go independent, it would be a bit better. I would say if you could, definitely go independent, especially if you had the space for it. So any input on OLEDs for work, like see, OLED's not perfect when it comes to text. Like if you're programming and you're usually using it for some sort of like, just like right now, how we're looking through this display, it's not going to be perfect, but it certainly has gotten a lot better. After, I'd say, about the year 2024, about 23, 24, OLED displays have certainly upticked and gotten way better when it comes to the text side. Now, again, it's not perfect. It's not going to be like IPS clear, but it certainly has gotten a lot clearer. It's definitely way better than something like a VA panel. So, OLED will hurt your wallet, but IPS is just a cheaper option. It's very true. OLED is unbeatable for input lag. So that's why OLED costs more. Absolutely. And this monitor here, believe it or not, because it's even 30% smaller. So just imagine how thin it is. Like OLED's already thin as it is. So it's even smaller now. And it has a 0.03 millisecond input lag. So it's really minimal. And that on top of it here has 10-bit color. So its delta is E2. Now the color difference is astonishing. Now it does have DisplayPort 1.4, HDMI 2.1, and USB hub. So I gotta say, it does certainly seem like a interesting monitor for the most part. 540 hertz, isn't that crazy? Like that's just like, that's something that you would never hear back then. 540 hertz is like the new high compared to 240 hertz. 240 hertz is considered like the normal type of monitor now, which is insane. So yeah, no problem. If you get OLED, get the glossy monitor. Absolutely, glossy is the best way. The good thing is glossy has been recently on the release side. They've mentioned it originally earlier this year, during Computex 2025, And that's when they started bringing out those glossy displays. Now, some of them were semi-glossy. They weren't completely glossy just quite yet. But some people prefer more of the matte display, especially for some reason if you have your PC like facing like against the opposite side of your window. And if you have the curtains open and the sunlight bounces off your monitor, it's going to blind you practically if it's glossy. So some people didn't like that. But most people will end up wanting a glossy display if you prefer more of the higher quality type of monitor. Like better picture, better quality, it's going to look more clear cut when it comes into, like, say, the lines. The line density will be a lot better and certainly looks better on text as well. So yeah, I'm using a old 2018 VA-AOC panel. AOC, man. You know what's funny? They just dropped something too recently. I just was on X. I saw that they just announced something. I will find it though. We will certainly look for it. That's funny though. So thinking of Alienware IPS monitor. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a great way to go. Now, again, you could always spend a little bit of extra cash and go full OLED. But again, OLED might go a lot cheaper, especially within, I'd say, give it like a year and a half. OLED's going to be like a little bit more standard compared to what it is now. It's already becoming a lot more prevalent out there, especially when it comes to displays. A lot more people are actually using OLED when they are gaming or if they're using it for their PC. So if you put this monitor against mine, this is the Titan. So our brains are transcending as we Thank you, Kirian. So actually I was looking at the website that specializes at secondhand items, and the middle of the night, not Amazon. My friends are like, something's good's gonna be posted on there. Instantly be sold at 3 a.m. And then I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't have that special kick. I know what you mean, Rugel. It's like you're looking for that one thing that makes it specific, like something that you really are looking for to improve your PC and overall. Maybe you're looking for even just like a keyboard with better switches on them. Maybe you prefer something like more like they actually now have, which are like these magnetic switches, which are pretty dope. Or they even have like these ones where they're like the ones that I currently have on this K100 or OPX, which are optical switches. And then they even got I'm trying to think of the one where you can actually put the pressure onto the switch. I'm trying to think of the name of that switch. And might be considered Hall effect switches too. But these switches, you can actually, they sense your pressure depending on how hard you press the key. So if you're playing something like Battlefield 6 and you don't want to end up running, you can just lightly hit W and it will actually move at that speed that you push the key. I know Corsair has it, and I believe Woot also has it as well. So I have OLED for the gaming truly best visual experience. My LG over 4,000 hours now. Yeah, notice. So anybody out there who games on OLED, please let me know your experience when it comes to burn-in. Have you guys experienced any burn-in on any display? Doesn't matter when OLED first came out, when it first was really out, like in say 2018 when it came in displays. Did anybody out there really have true issues when it came to OLED? I would love to know if you did, or nobody had a issue with it so far. I would love to know both sides of it, because personally to me, on OLED display, OLED 65-inch TV, old C1 TV, no issues when it comes to display issues. No type of issues when it comes to burn-in. Currently with the Asus PG34WCDM, there's no issues with this display either. And the most important thing too is doing the preventative measures when it comes to these type of monitors here. So yeah, for sure they'll drop the price 30%. I'll go OLED gaming. The clarity, zero ghosting is elite. Absolutely. Lost Souls. So LSG here watching. Oh, appreciate it. Much love. You want wooting features for any type of keyboards with magnetics? Absolutely. That's what it is. I have experienced zero burn-in issues in 1 year of heavy gaming. There you go. No burning. So CS Squawk, no issues. Simply Takuma, no issues. If you own an OLED, you are on top tier mode. Absolutely. OLEDs have pixel drift built in. Absolutely. There you go, no clue. And they have auto repair functionality to prevent this. That's the thing. It's gotten a lot better. Display technology has gotten a lot better over time. They have pixel remapping. They also have pixel movement to so that way it allows the screen to be able to kind of like exercise, so that way it doesn't end up having one image stuck in. And plus, OLED devices currently do also have is heat sinks built in. And believe it or not, a lot of the stress doesn't come from like OLED when it comes to gaming. It's more so if you're using it for other applications, such as like say if you're using it for like Premiere Pro or Premiere Pro, or if you're using it for DaVinci, or if you're using it for anything like that, that puts intense wear onto your monitor. But the good thing is now they have a lot of preventative care in these monitors built in to prevent any of these issues happening. In fact, they have auto proximity sensors in a lot of these OLED TVs, or even OLED devices or OLED monitors, to as soon as you turn away from it, as soon as you're not facing that OLED monitor, it will actually dim out. It will actually practically shut down, or it even goes into a pixel cleaning mode, just because it knows the hours of use that this monitor has been on. So OLED burn-in doesn't really happen as often. So if you own a OLED, going to go with the XG27AQWMG. So thanks to Meta's PCs and Chris Mizo, I am now into awesome, Kyrian. I'm glad to hear that you are into building PCs. Now, anybody that is just coming into the chat, just to let you know, this is a free open chat. You're allowed to ask any questions. There is no real stupid questions. I promise you, we've all been there. We've all built a PC for the first time. Maybe you're finally getting off a console. You realize, hey, this isn't for me. I might as well go the PC path. Feel free to also ask questions. And also, I am Chris Mizo. I talk about PC building and tech. Thank you for subscribing, Lost Souls. I much appreciate it. Thank you for subscribing there. Now, just to let you know, everybody out there, I'm Chris Mizo. I talk about PC and tech. So feel free to ask any questions. Feel free to join our Discord. If you're too shy to ask in the chat, that's fine as well. You can also feel free to show off your PC. You can feel free to show off your benchmarks, and you can even show your PC parts shopping list if you're unsure of any of the components, because all of us in here are willing to help each other. I'm telling you, when it comes to PC building, it's nothing but love. I'm telling you, but you might get your balls busted every once in a while, but I promise you, it's nothing but love. So we had a OLED screen for work a while ago, but the pixel drift drove coworkers crazy. Oh no. So we basically couldn't work on any documents. So I had to recall. See, believe it or not, that actually strains the PC a bit more than gaming, because in gaming, it's constantly moving compared to a document where it's constantly on the screen and there's very little change. There's little changes in text, but that's it. So they went back to basic monitors. So that makes perfect sense. That's a good example, actually. I think people that have burn-in issues are those who use OLED for non-gaming tasks. Absolutely. There you go, Nor. There, and you hit the bell. So I was so scared about this morning about burn-in. Turns out it was just dirty. And that's the funny thing. You would get really fooled. And there's a lot of, and the funny thing is when it comes to OLED monitors here, there's times where you actually think your monitor's off, but it's not. It's just a dark screen, because again, you have the true blacks. Anytime you get those true blacks, it really looks like your screen's off. And if you really compare it to something like IPS, you're always going to see some sort of indication that the backlight is on. You'll see that the backlight is on in the corner, or there's some sort of indication that, there's some sort of leakage when it comes to the light. But when it comes to OLED, it's truly just pure black. So you can't even tell that the monitor's on until it actually ends up kicking on. Like, oh, it was actually in pixel cleaning mode and you had no idea about it. So I love my Alienware 1440p QD OLED, hard to go back. Absolutely. So if you used 1440p, you don't go back. Absolutely. It's really hard to. And it's funny because when you go to 1440p, you feel like, this isn't really that big of a difference. It's not that large of a difference compared to say like going back to 1080. But when you go back to 1080, you realize that it's quite the difference when it comes to the resolution. You actually realize it's actually, wait, this isn't as clear as I thought it was, or I'm not getting as much coverage as I'd like. Like for me personally, like once I went ultra wide, once I went to this whole ultra wide stage, I just couldn't go to any other type of screen afterwards. Even if it's like, even the 4K screens where they're 32 inches, I just don't really have any type of real attraction to them like the ultra wides, because I feel like I get so much better coverage, especially when you're using it for something like, you can use it easily for simulations, which I should certainly try it, but I gotta say, when it comes to ultra wides, it's really hard to turn back for my personal self here. Now, yes, OLED's a blast. It's really hard to go off of OLED because you're going to notice it immediately. Like once, like the perfect example was when I was on OLED. Matter of fact, prior to OLED, Palworld, right? It's not the best graphics wise, but it certainly looks great, the game. So I was playing on a typical IPS panel, upgraded to a OLED panel, and my God, what a difference. It looked like a completely different game. It will revamp and remaster your games even without the actual back-end work. So the monitor, when it displays that like a game like Palworld or anything like any type of game really, it just brings new life to it. It's really amazing. So 1440, let's see, OLED was crazy after. Yeah, I can't imagine that jump going from VA to OLED, because VA is really nice when it comes to colors, but it has that ghosting, and not a lot of people are fans of the ghosting when it comes to VA, but it's really good in color. The 9800X 3D and the 9070 XT power supply at the minimum, you're going to want at least 850 watts for that. You're going to want at least 850 watts and you'll be good. Anything over, even better, to be honest. But 850 watts is certainly personally my minimum. Technically, you could go lower, but go 850 at the minimum. So 1440p is a good compromise for image quality and performance for me. 4K is nice, but I prefer to push higher FPS, and that's not possible in some 4K titles. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, there you go. Noor's answered. Awesome. I just seen the Steve Jobs introduction. Thank you for the bits. Thank you so much, Lost Souls. How mid is the 3060 12GB and the 9600X CPU? I'd say 9600X gets a lot of flack for no reason. Actually, we did a PC build with the 9600X. We did it with the 9070 XT. So honestly, it's a great build. I was able to get a ton of frames out of playing Doom Dark Ages. No problem at all. No struggle. Same thing with but on a 3060, it's honestly not as bad. Believe it or not, this is when it gets a little bit rough when it comes to NVIDIA. I'd say the 30 series was on that last bit when it came to NVIDIA's golden age when it came to GPUs. Because once you go exceed that part, once you go to the 4060 and the 5060, they're nothing like how the 3060 or the 2060 are. So it's not really mid technically. It's more like, think of it like it's almost technically like a 4070, but it's a 3060 in a way. So it's like in that between number. So it certainly can do the task that you would like it to do, depending on the type of games you prefer to play. So, but I can say 3060 and the 9600X isn't bad. But of course, if you're looking to game on a better monitor, or if you're looking to go into something like a 4K monitor, then it's going to be a bit better to get a upgraded GPU. I mean, I've been telling everybody this. If you haven't tried a 9070 XT, just give it a shot. It's honestly not bad, especially that a lot of the pricing now when it comes to their GPUs, they're below MSRP. You can get it for under $600, and it can perform well. Personally, to me, the 9070 XT is the best card of the year, even over the RTX 5090. Why? Because of the price and the performance of the card. And believe it or not, AMD's internal software has improved tenfold. You could go FSR4, no problems. So certainly take a look at the 9070 XT as an option, and more than likely you'll be happy with the selection. So 6 cores isn't, yes, it really isn't. 6 cores is not that bad. Excuse me, 6 cores is going to be decent, especially for anybody that is doing like a PC. In fact, you still could stream off of it technically if you wanted to. You won't have issues. It's just going to be just enough for that. More than likely, you're not going to go into some crazy multitasking. That's really what those extra cores are for. If you're a crazy multitasker, then that's when those cores come in handy. Or I can say this, or you like to play games that are Unreal Engine 5. I know that hurts, but Unreal Engine 5s will end up like destroying those cores real quick. So, do you think the LG 39 GX90 SAW would be a great gaming and video editing monitor? Great question, Lost Souls. I got you there. So, to bring that up, let me make that a bit... I didn't want to move my face. But, I think the LG 39 GX90 SA is actually a great monitor. That was one of the monitors... It was one of the monitors I was actually looking at when it came to like more of a multitask type of monitor there. So I would certainly say it's actually great to do both tasks. It's going to be great when you use it for editing. You're going to have a lot of real estate there. So I'd say definitely go for it. I think with 6 cores, it mainly harms your product. Yes, absolutely. I can run everything on max graphics, 1440p, over the 4K OLED. But then AMD with the support on the older cards aren't very good. Yes, on the older cards they're not great. In fact, remember AMD said, hey, we're not going to support RDNA 1. We're not going to do RDNA 2 anymore. There was a big uproar about it, and overnight they instantly changed their minds. Because there's still quite an audience out there that still has those cards. Even though it's 8%, and AMD just needs a new spokesperson, to be honest. When it comes to the marketing side, it's just rough. I don't know why they decided to announce something that abruptly, especially for those who have those type of cards. Now, it looks bad on their part, especially to bring up the Steam machine. That's like right in the middle of the tier, because technically the new Steam machine will have a custom AMD card in there, which is going to be up to 28 CUs, similar to like a 7600. That would be technically on borderline of being like out of date. But thankfully they're using Linux, so that's like their big kind of like workaround around that anyway. So it wouldn't matter if that was the case. So I'm running a 9070 XT Nitro, and honestly had no problems gaming with GPU being at 80 Celsius. There's no max with literally no sound. So case fans are louder than the card. It's funny, it happens. The only way to work around those case fans is if you get like Noctua fans. That would be the best way if you want to avoid the sound. Now, we were looking at Corsair fans the other day. Honestly, they're not that bad. You could get some actually really quiet fans, as long as if they're not above a certain decibel, which is the decibel of around 30 decibels or higher is going to be quite loud for a case fan. Anything under 30 decibels will certainly be much quieter. You'll notice it immediately. A lot of case fans that come with PCs are unfortunately very loud. And they're usually around like more around that 35 to 40 decibel line. And Nor says I did a lot more on my 5600X than people would believe paired with a 4080. So it's kind of overkill what I do, but it's future proof. So yes, I'm running a 9070K, and really because my 9950 X3D and RTX 5090 cannot run Cyberpunk with Oh really? I'm surprised, because I've run pad tracing with no issues when it came to Cyberpunk. Now, believe it or not, now a lot of people get this mixed up when it comes to the 9950 X3D, or even is it the X3D. So the 9950 X3D and the 9800 X3D are actually really similar to each other. The only difference is that obviously because it has more cores, it's going to have a bit more of a CCX. So it's technically really running on the same type of V cache like a 9800 X3D is. So even though for example, just say a 9800 X3D will have 8-core split into working on gaming. Typically, it's going to be the first a 0 to 8 cores. Well, it will actually be running on Vcache. Now, the 9 to 16 will actually not be running on Vcache. It'll actually be running other tasks, such as your background tasks for your Windows updates or whatever. So that's how that runs. So the same thing with the 9950 X3D. It's just going to split because there's only one Vcache, and that's the problem with the current processors now, because they don't double up the Vcache. If they did, that would be an advantage. But unfortunately, it's the same way. So they split that one Vcache doing this. The one Vcache doing the same type of task. It splits it just for gaming, and you're not going to see a detrimental improvement compared to even a 9000 X3D. They actually fall more in line of in similar use. So that's why there's not really a big difference between the two in the gaming side, but it certainly makes a difference when it comes to the productivity side. Say if you're streaming, then that's certainly going to be a large advantage over a 9800 X3D. So I think the problem with those 16-core chips is the window tasks, and that's the problem exactly. It's a scheduler. And there's actually something that I was experimenting with Battlefield 6 because a lot of people were having issues when it came to the Vcache. In fact, it's funny, I fixed this issue, but I couldn't replicate the issue, which was, for some reason, Windows Scheduler was scheduling the cores. It was scheduling the 9 to 16 cores over to it was scheduling it to Battlefield 6, which are none of the Vcache. So it's not really going to, you're not really taking full advantage of the X3D processor. And in fact, it's going to end up making it run a bit harder than it should. So I had to try to forcefully manually transfer over the Vcache over using a different program. So I used this program to transfer it over, and it was giving a lot of problems doing it. And I found out a lot of the problems were because of the anti-cheat as well, because the anti-cheat was actually running all 4 cylinders. So it was running the whole processor. So the anti-cheat was the main cause, the main culprit in the first place, plus it was scheduling the game into the non-Vcache. So I went to schedule it back over manually, and it seemed to work fine. But then the anti-cheat is the main issue where I'm trying to figure out what to do next there. But let's see. Go back up here. Cyberplump 2077. Sony GDM FW900 1920 100 Hz stunning CRT panel with dual BNC VGA and only 42 kilograms. More CCDs also mean more late. Yes, and that's very true too. So there's always going to be a positive and negative when it comes to something like this. So that is true. There could be more latency. That is going to be another issue to be figured out, for so to say. But I definitely want to share it with you guys. I'll show you what I did so far. Unfortunately, that's on my gaming rig, so I can't just quite show you that yet. But I'll show you what I did, and hopefully I can replicate the issue again. And that way I can show you how to transfer the Vcache over to your processor. I tried to kind of get it to go back on the non-Vcache again, but it seems like it won't do that anymore. You want integrated graphics to get into your BIOS in case if you lose your GPU. And you know what's funny? That's why a lot of those motherboards out there, like you see, like, why do they have HDMI, or why do they have like the extra display port on the motherboard? You don't need it. That's the reason. The same thing when it comes to the keyboard and mouse, because you might see like those old peripherals. And I know you guys know what I'm talking about, especially for those who've built PCs long ago. You'll see like a green and a purple a port. And you'll see like and the green one would be typically, I think it was the green one was the keyboard, and the purple one will be the mouse. And they'll even actually have them on modern motherboards. And a lot of people might ask exactly, why do they have them? Why do they have that now? Nobody even sells those type of keyboards and mouse now. But the thing is, the main reason is for those hardcore overclockers that are trying to break records. That is for those type of people, because believe it or not, those BIOSes still end up freezing up where you can't use a USB mouse or keyboard. In fact, a perfect example is like the big issue with Microsoft and their update when they had the whole issue where it would actually freeze up with the Microsoft update into their recovery environment. And because when it froze up in the recovery environment, you were unable to use the mouse. More than likely, if you had those two ports there where you're able to have that little purple and green port there, I guarantee you more than likely it will work. So Takuma, oh man, you're leaving us. Have a great night, Takuma. Thank you for joining in. I know it's late over there, man. So X3D CPUs have integrated graphics. Okay. There you go. It seems like they got some answers there. So hello there. I'm thinking of switching from Windows 10 OS to Bazzite OS. Am I making the right choice? Now, anybody that's switching over to Linux, I can say you can first experiment with it by dual booting. Now, you can always dual boot into Linux. You can dual boot into Bazzite. See how you like it first. It's not a bad choice. What you can do, hopefully you have two separate drives. If you have like a C and a D drive, just make your D drive as your Bazzite drive if you can. Just back up whatever you have in your D drive because obviously it's going to format it out. Or you can choose to partition your drive to where you're able to have another drive, so to say. You can split your D drive to two separate drives if you choose to. But anyway, the point is, you can always dual boot into Linux, see how you like it. See how you like Bazzite. Now, it's not a bad choice if you're familiar with Linux. Now, it's going to be a bit sketchy. For example, if you have like an ultra wide just like I do, or if you have a 4K monitor, it's not going to be quite perfect yet, but if you have a 1080p monitor, it works really well. Reason being is because if you do install it with the Steam OS boot practically, where it's Steam Big Picture mode as soon as you turn on your PC, then you can easily go into a game without issue. It won't give you any problems. It'll go into 1080p. But if you have any type of different resolution, say if you have like a 4K monitor and you try to open it up, it's only going to open in 1080p. You'll have to open it up. You'll actually have to open the game through desktop in order for you to enjoy the 4K experience. And then there's certain games on there where you have to launch it with Proton in order for it to work properly. So definitely experiment with it first before you do a complete Windows wipe to see how you like it. And then from there, you'll have a good indication if you'll miss Windows or if you won't. But I can certainly say you will certainly see definitely quite a improvement when it comes to the gaming side. So I want to do Blender in the future on a professional level. Concerning on the AMD Radeon RX 7900 XTX cards, which card would you advise? So if you're you're asking if a 7900 XTX would be good enough. It certainly would. It's 24 gigabytes. Now, if you're thinking of, are you thinking of going NVIDIA? Because if you are, I can understand why, because then you have the CUDA cores where you can take advantage of in Blender. Is that the question that you do want to ask? But both will certainly work well. You just have a slight advantage, obviously, if you go with NVIDIA, because the CUDA cores will certainly help you in that aspect when it comes to the 3D modeling side. So the amount of times I switched up those yes, it's insane, right? Those PS2s. That's exactly what they are. The peripheral switches. Or it stands for peripheral something. Serial, I think. It was. So keeping it on the beneficial, thanks, no clue. 5080 top end price for what I've ever myself for the green company. So have you experimented with Tiny 11? I haven't. I thought about it though. I certainly did. If DDR5 memory listed for sale is not specified AMD. So if it's not specified, you're going to have to look it up. So you're going to look up that serial number. More than likely, you're going to know through the type of numbers that they give you. Feel free to send it in Discord. Would love to see it. I'll certainly help you find out which one it is. But usually you can look up the model number and it'll tell you, or you could go to the motherboard that you would like. For example, say you want to get like a MSI X870E Carbon. you look at the Carbon website, you go to the specification side where you put the memory in, and they'll actually give you a list of memory that you can actually get that will properly fit the MSI Carbon. So that's definitely an option you could do, or you can actually go to the memory site and actually put in the type of motherboard that you are looking at, and they will actually give you the selection of all the compatible memory. Now, just to let you know, if you do go AMD, they will still populate XMP profile memory. So now with AMD, you can work with both XMP and Expo. You can do both. But I can certainly tell you that you want to go, you can go a bit more for the Expo side. Just make sure it says Expo on there if that's the case. But again, if you're looking on the memory site, it's going to populate both of them. So yes, no, XMP is its own profile. That's Intel's profile versus AMD. But AMD could actually do XMP and they can do Expo. So it could Expo is a little bit more modern compared to what XMP is, but XMP is Intel's signature for their boards. So it would be a bit more compatible for that side. Expo would certainly work a bit better for AMD because it's more compatible for the profiles on AMD's CPUs and for their system. So Crucial Pro overclock. Again, Crucial's a great deal. If anybody hasn't seen Crucial's RAM, that's the best way to go currently. It seems like everything else is way expensive, especially Patriot's Viper. It's insane. Have you guys seen the pricing on that? It's a bloodbath currently with RAM. It makes me actually want to check out the chart of just how bad the pricing is when it comes to RAM, because if you guys have seen it, it's pretty bad. It's just like, it looks like it's going up. It's like a straight incline and there's no coming down. That's how crazy the price trends are. Let's take a look. I'm going to show you guys right here. So what are your thoughts on Windows 11 updates such as 24H, 25H, etc.? I would say more than likely for your build, or I'm assuming if you're going with the build, I'm going to sign off too. It's 110 for... okay, Jennifer. Have a great night. Thank you for coming in. Thanks to you supporters out there. I think LSG is still here. Still shout out to him. Shout out to Takuma. They're all part of the round table. Feel free to join us. It would be great for you to join us to see our discussions. But to get back on the whole Windows updates, you don't have to stick with the trend. Not necessary. Especially now because... apparently, Microsoft has 30% of their software upgrades and their coding is through AI. So there's a lot of different issues going on. If it works right now, don't mess with it. Unless you know for certain that the upgrade can work well. So it's not necessary to upgrade every cycle. So the next one that we're looking for, obviously, is going to be the 26H1. And... again, I'm skeptical. They're actually going to bring haptic feedback to your mouse, so that's going to be interesting. So generally, any 6000 CL30 will just work fine on AMD. Exactly. There is a Clev 6400 CL32 2 by 16 for 110 euros. Downside, not euros, pounds. Apologize for that. 110 pounds. So downside dispatch, 6 to 7 months. Oh, wow. 6 to 7 months. That's quite insane. Let me show you these trends, man, because this is crazy. This is quite insane for anyone to see this, because it might squeeze your heart a little bit, because this is DDR4 here. DDR4 is like, look at that. Look at that price trend, right? You're like, oh, that's not so bad. It just only went up like what, like $50, like 50 or 60 bucks. But really think about it. That's like a 50% uptick right there. And then if you go down any further when it comes to the memory side, especially for anyone that is looking for the sweet spot of 6,000 megahertz or 6,400 megahertz here, take a look at that. DDR5, 6,000 megahertz. Look at that uptick. Now, just of like between August and September right there, like right in the middle between the both. In fact, we could go into nearly September right here. It's at about $130. But if you notice, like it's going all the way up there. I know your mobile guys are probably having a little trouble seeing it, but this is where it was. But if you look where that uptick is, where that uptick is currently sitting at $260. So you're talking about like it went double in price. It went up 100%. That's insane. That's really crazy. So it's sad, right? It's sad seeing something like this. Even like 5600, right? Nothing crazy, not as fast as 6000 megahertz, obviously. But take a look at this. Originally, it was about like you could get it for a decent, maybe $200. It was a little bit more, ironically, than 6000 because of, again, you're paying for the capacity here. So now it's like, say it falls into around between August and September, it's still around that, like just slightly over 200, maybe 210. But now it's about $420, $410 to $420 for that RAM. Now that's insane. I'm sticking with 23H2 at the moment. I've heard about the update at bleeding RAM and CPU. It's, you know what's funny? I remember when Windows 11 first came out, like when they first started really pushing it. Yes, and it's only going higher. It just, you know, like the big, just like in Halo, anybody that's played Halo, it's just like that big arch that you see. Like it just seems like it never ends. It almost feels like that. It's still building. It's going to keep growing. And it's just going to get worse. It's true. Hopefully manufacturers are able to handle this type of load. Hopefully they end up doubling. I mean, especially with the new technology of LPDDR6, hopefully that's going to draw a bit more attention compared to our standard RAM right now. Now that's more on the enterprise side, not in the consumer side. It's hopefully on the consumer side, it certainly gets better when it comes to RAM. But there's a lot of people that's certainly interested in doing these local machines and these and building AI. So I can see why it's going up. How does Chris Mizo live stream perfectly with no issues? Oh man, it took a lot. I'll tell you right now, it took a lot of practice. It took a lot. I've been live streaming since I'd say like about February. That's when I really started live streaming of this year. So I tried to do the best I can, but I'm telling you, people who's attended my streams know that my streams hasn't been perfect. So talking of RAM compatibility, if I remember correctly, CL26 RAM is exclusively promised to only stable on Ryzen 9000s. Though I'm pretty sure that the guy who already bought the CL26 has the budget. Yeah, you certainly got to. Like if you're spending that kind of money, if you could get CL26, and the same part is CL26 was actually really decently priced back then. Now this isn't even going off of latency, and that's what I'm looking for. And CL26 is practically non-existent. In fact, we could go onto Newegg and try to find it. What's up, Frozen? Welcome back. Good to see you. I'm glad that you're back in. It's funny. We're just talking about all the action with the whole RAM issues that are going on. Let's go with Newegg because we're gonna look up CL26, right? And CL26 is just going to be very expensive. I would imagine very expensive. So now this is going to be V-Color. V-Color, again, nobody's heard. And here we go. There we go. Take a guess. I know you guys on the mobile side can't just quite see it, but I'm going to drag it over. I just want you guys to guess what it is. I know you guys on the horizontal certainly know exactly what the price is because you guys can see it, but take a guess on the vertical side of what the price is. Lexar CL26 2x16 before the RAM doomsday started. I mean, it's just, if you bought RAM in September, I mean, you guys just had a gift. You guys really lucked out big time because man, it's just bad. It's really rough if you try to get RAM now. But anyway, I know you guys are dying to know the pricing, and it is just savage there. $524.99 for G-Skill Z5 Neo RGB for 32 gigabytes of CL26. That's insane. And then GL Skill, if you get the Royal Neo series, you can get it for a wonderful $889. Isn't that crazy? That's like a GPU right there. In fact, you know what? For that same RAM, we're going to find a GPU for that price. We're going to easily find a GPU. Let's look up a 5070, just a regular, how about RTX 5090? It's going to be pretty close to that, not 5090, 5080. That's my mistake. A 5080. Maybe not on Newegg, because Newegg, they're not as friendly when it comes to prices. It's nearly close. You get a gigabyte WindForce here at GeForce 5080 for nearly that same price. It's insane. Look at that. $999. You spend $100 more, you get a whole GPU. What would you rather have? RAM, honestly, is one of the most boring updates when it comes to a PC. Everybody knows it. Everybody can admit to it. RAM is not fun to upgrade. Yeah, it's nice to have extra capacity. Same thing with SSDs. It's, yeah, nice. It's extra capacity. But when it comes to action, everybody looks forward to getting a GPU. It's the best and the most fun component to certainly get. I would much rather get a GPU over RAM. But it just shows you how insane the pricing is. 40% more for CL30 for 3% performance. That's the thing. It's really not that much of a disparity in benching when it comes between the two. If you really compare the numbers, it's not going to matter unless you are seriously competitive to the point where you need every little second, every little millisecond when it comes to it. 96 gigabyte CL26 or exactly. You know what? Let's look up what Rugal said. Let's look up a 96 gigabyte CL26. 96 gigabytes of CL26 on the way. I bought mine September, 64 CL32 Corsair. You really bought at the golden moment. It honestly did. That's awesome, Frozen. More effects in 64 gigabyte kits to have CL26. And take a look. 96 gig. This is not non-RGB, guys. This is just like regular standard RAM. Surprisingly, is actually a better deal. Yeah, that's actually a better deal than the RAM we just saw earlier. For what was it? For that G-Skill Royal Trident, $487. $500. Here you go, 96 gigabytes of RAM. And this is CL26, is it? I doubt it. This is CL30, I bet. I think this is CL30. No, CL36. Even worse, that's my mistake. It's my mistake. CL36. No wonder why it's so cheap. $487 is cheap when it comes to the RAM side. That is insane. We are trying to find CL26. Let's break it down this way. I'm going to strictly select it so that way we don't get any of those varying results there. So here it is. There it is. $979. That's right. There it is. $979. I got my CL30 G-Skill. That's what I mean. 130 euros just a few months ago. It's just outrageous. Yes. CL36 is fine, to be honest. Like when we did this PC build, when we did the whole it was based on a budget build, because when we got CL36 at the time, it was only $90. And again, the latency really is not going to be that noticeable, especially if you're going from something like a newer PC, like a 96. We did a 9600X build on a 9070 XT, worked perfectly fine, and it was still able to pull the frames that we were looking for with no issue. So that tells you right there that the whole latency, it does matter, but it doesn't really matter to the point unless you're very competitive. Now, would you rather have G-Skill Trident Z5 Neo 96 gigabytes of RAM, or would you prefer a nice RTX 5080 where it's only, what, 10 extra bucks and you get a brand new GPU? And you got so much you can do. You can do so much more with the GPU now. When the RAM costs more than your CPU and GPU, exactly. You can. In fact, this is like a PC build. Who would have ever thought that when you said, like, hey, I'm going to build a PC, that the RAM is going to be the most expensive component when it comes to building a PC? I don't think anybody has thought that. Because if you did, man, I don't know what. I would have laughed at you a couple months ago. I would have thought you were that you were like on something at the time. That there's no way that RAM would be that expensive, because you would think it's such a common part. It's the cheapest available, the 32 gigabyte kit, 6000 CL30 to CL36. Are people trying to? I have to ask: has anybody looked in the used market, when, like on eBay, for example? Has anybody actually looked on RAM on the used market to see if people are actually trying to flip their RAM? I'm just curious to see if anybody actually has looked, because it does pique my curiosity a little bit to see if there is actually people trying to sell their RAM. 128 euros honestly isn't too bad. Now that's for 32 gigabyte. It's insane. I still feel like it's insane though. It still hurts me to say that. I really feel like that's really overpriced. After experiencing, now the last time we seen RAM this high, and again it was understandable why we saw it this high, was when DDR5 first released. And if everybody remembers how hard it was to get DDR5 RAM, especially when it came to Alder Lake. When they released Alder Lake in the 12th generation, it was really hard to get DDR5 RAM. So you would have to look through so many different sources in order to try to purchase the RAM. And it was also expensive. To get a pair, it was like about $300. And it was like for DDR5, 4800 megahertz or 5200 megahertz would be the highest at that time. And it was about $300 if you were to get the pair. So now it's even worse. It's way worse than what it was then. We thought it was bad back then. Now it looks even worse, and there's actually supply. But this supply is not going to last long, because the reason why it's getting more expensive is because there's actually people actually purchasing these kits, and not just some of it, a lot of it. So, in all honesty, CPUs and GPU pricing is dropping. So, RAM is equating out. It seems like if it's not one, it's the other. And it's always like that. Again, just to give you guys an idea of just how expensive it is, like $979 for this kit. And now, if we just go back on our search here, and we actually looked for a GPU here, which I'm going back to, an RTX 5080, again, is $999. So, tell me how that makes sense there. You can actually purchase a Blackwell GPU, 16 gigabytes, for $999 there. There is a 6000 CL32, 216 at 106. Oh, really? Sold out in 24/7. I can believe it. It's going to be a very hot commodity. If you can certainly get the RAM now, certainly get it if you can get a good deal on it. I mean, if you want the flexible SSD, there's always AIC SSDs. Those bad boys are like a sore thumb, but a build that runs them at full X16 potentially probably has Threadripper in it already. And even bigger flex, since AM5 Mobos can only split it with the GPU X8 instead of running them both on X16. Absolutely true there. That's 100% truth there. You know, it's funny because I've wanted to upgrade this whole streaming build. In fact, I thought about swapping out the case, upgrading the RAM, and it's actually a Threadripper build, but it's an older version of it. I have the 3970 XT. I mean, not XT, the 3970X, which is based on Zen 2. And I do want to end up upgrading the case. I want to increase the capacity of it, because it seems that I'm only running it at about 64 gigabytes capacity. It certainly can do a lot more. I do want to upgrade the GPU because it's still running on an RTX 3080 Ti. Again, it's working great. No problems with it, but the case that I do have is a bit dated. And I certainly want to make sure to have at least a USB-C port in the front of the case, which would be nice. And the good thing about these modern cases now, that a lot more of them are coming out at least with like dual USB-C ports, because that's going to be more of the common item that we certainly would see. In fact, I was actually surprised when looking at the Steam machine that there's only one USB-C port in the front panel. But who knows, that could always change. With the Steam machine, I saw that there was like 2 USB-A ports and there was a USB-C port in the front of it. But we could always take a look at it, just double check all the I/O ports that it currently contains. Apparently, you can game up to 4K 60. Now, when it games to 4K 60, that's obviously going to be with FSR. Now, it doesn't. it's hard to say. I don't think it's going to contain FSR4. More than likely, it'll have FSR3 that's actually going to help those titles. So I wonder what GPU Chris Mizo will pick. That's yeah, certainly we could do a poll for it. Yeah, we can certainly do a poll for something like that. Actually, let me see if I can make one real quick. I could try to make that poll real quick for you guys and see what type of GPU would go well with something like this. Let me see, where is it at? It's funny because it's right here too. What's up, Alex? Awesome. I'm glad you're having a great time playing Fortnite there. Yeah, so 5080 was like at 1200, now 1K. Lover for a big used market, so it's still the same price. If you add the insane upside down for the RAM, overall, if you're on a budget, it's really good. I bet. It's insane too. So I can't imagine. So you could actually purchase a 5080 used for a decent price. You could actually probably purchase it like maybe about, I guess, 700 used at like a low point, like at a cheap point, I would assume. Let's see. And let me type that in real quick. Oh, there we go. Let me kick that person out. So I have the Juice World. I kind of figured that because I saw your avatar on Discord. So that's what I was figuring. That's what I figured that's what you had for your skin. That's funny. Okay, so the poll's coming, guys. Working on it. And this will be universal. So for you to vote in this poll, it's actually really easy. All you have to do is type the number of what it should be. And I'm about to run it, guys. And let me see. All right, perfect. And let me just put it in here. It's funny because I originally had a poll for this. Let me see. Add existing. Renew. Okay, perfect. So you're going to see something come up here. Just give it a second. And all you have to do is put the number on this poll for it to work. I'm going to have to add it on the other side of the just chatting side here. And let me see. I'm going to turn it on. And there you go. Perfect. So you just pick the number. And I know I got to put it up here in the just chatting side. So put in the number of what you think I should go for this PC build. So you can pick any one and let me know your pick. There we go. There you go. Hey, where'd it go? It's funny, I just had it up there. It's going to come back up, guys. I apologize for that. Let me see. There it is. Okay, perfect. See, the voting's still in play. There you go. Now it worked. So make your pick. Let me know what your votes are. So far, we got 5080, we got 5070 Ti, or the 5090. Just out of curiosity. So far, it seems like we got more to pick for the 5080. So all you have to do is put the number, Alex, and you're good. So you put either 1, 2, or 3 if anybody's curious about how you vote. So YouTube frogs don't get... Everybody gets a poll. Everybody does. So no worries. I was just working on it. I got to change up the style of it though. I know it looks kind of like generic. I did have it working originally. So I got to say, like, when it comes to the GPUs, they're suddenly a lot down in price. Take advantage of it if you could. I know that there's no 50 series supers just quite yet. Unfortunately, it seems like this is the biggest issue that's currently going on. is that with this whole RAM issue, if you're wondering why I brought that up, that was the main reason. Of course, it can obviously affect the GPU side. That's why you're not going to see any of the 850 series supers because of this reason. So I always kind of thought the 5080 was a bit too expensive. But depending on the VRAM pricing changes, maybe the 5070 Ti goes up enough to just buy a 5080 instead. Exactly. And that's the thing. It's coming out to be a bit more fair priced, because originally the RTX 4080 was really expensive. It was $1,200 to get it. In fact, I think it was $1,300 they wanted to charge for it. A lot of people were pissed about it, and rightfully so, because you're not getting that much of an improvement and you're paying much more money compared to something like the RTX 5080, where it's a bit more fair in pricing. So memory amount is why. So the memory is expensive currently because there's a lot of people out there, especially the AI industry, is interested in purchasing the memory for their computers. And that's going to be mostly for the AI side, just trying to have enough RAM for their data centers practically. So that's why everything has shot up way drastically. And there is memory companies out there currently that is working on new memory. Currently, I think it is Samsung, and I know HK Hynix is also working on new memory factors. In fact, I know Samsung is the one coming out with LPDDR6 currently, and that's again more of the commercial side more than anything. And hopefully that alleviates the trouble that we currently have with the consumer market when it comes to the whole side, when it comes to RAM, and that's why it's so expensive. And this also it's a trickle down effect, because it also is going to affect the whole GPU side, because eventually it's going to get to the point where, for example, when the 50 series Super comes out, or if AMD wants to come out with their series coming out, if they come out with their card, the RDNA 5 card, it's going to be a bit of trouble trying to get VRAM for it. Yeah, I think it was $1,300 as well. Yeah, that's the thing. It was really expensive for it. 5060 Ti 16GB is going to be really hard to find at a good price going forward, I bet, whereas the 8GB version will be the same. That's a good, certainly right about that. Make a safe supercomputer AI. Make new RAMs ways. So, Alex, it depends where you live. Honestly, it's really a big difference around the world. Sounds like it should work. Now, yeah, I mean, yeah, it should work. So the 5070, if you were to get a 5070 now, Alex, it should be actually a decent price. Everything's back under MSRP. Or even a 5060, it's back under MSRP. So if we look at a 5060 now, I know you're located over in Europe, over in the UK, so it's going to be a bit more expensive. But just for example, looking at just a standard 5060 that's 8GB, it's about $300. But you don't want to get a standard 8GB GPU. It's better to go 16GB, because then it's a bit more future-proof in that sense. But again, I always highly recommend going to the 5070 side, at least 5070 Ti. Or even going 9070 XT is even really good too. So it sounds like it should work. What are the specs? So yeah, so it seems like you're thinking of building a PC now, Alex. Yeah, feel free to share what your thoughts are, and of what type of build that you're thinking up of. So get RAM, PC. You know what's funny? Originally, I always told everybody the first thing you have to get when it comes to a PC is your GPU. And now I'm starting to feel, maybe RAM is certainly the better way to go currently. Maybe RAM is the best way to get started off now. Because the reason why I said the GPU originally, because it's usually the most expensive purchase, and it's what people are usually looking for when it comes to a PC build, because that's the most critical component, especially when it comes to gaming, or if you're into 3D modeling. Now the CPU is more critical if you're looking for more of, like, say, the streaming side, or if you're looking for more of the producing side when it comes to Photoshop, or if you're into doing things like Premiere, video editing, like ideas like that. That's when CPU is a bit more important. Now, the 5070 Ti and the 5080 Si. So either one's really worth it. What's the cheapest GPU that is usable and will run on AM4? So the cheapest GPU I can say, which is usable and runs on AM4, I would just go even like the 50. I wouldn't even recommend like a 5060. You could even go like, if you wanted to look in the used market, you could probably find some of the 40 series. Look up the 40 series and you could probably get a decent deal for it. For this birthday Monday coming up. I mean, like, what are the specs of the PC? Okay. So the specs of the PC that everyone's voting for is going to be the Threadripper 3970X. It currently has 3600 megahertz of CL16, 64 gigabytes of RAM. It also has a 3080 Ti in it currently. And the case, that's something else that we gotta all figure out too, is what type of case should go in it. Again, it's more of the streaming build. This is what I really use it for the whole editing side. So that's what it's mainly for. It's mainly for editing, for streaming. So I just wanted to hear everybody's thoughts on what type of GPU should be put into this build. So RAM kit, PC case. So casually gaming mainly. I really want to upgrade the RAM too, badly. I looked at it the other day and I kind of regret not purchasing it because now it's like it shot up quite a bit in pricing. Like I was literally looking at it like last month, and of course this happens. So I got the 9070 XT because the 5080 was like 40% more, understandably so. 9070 XT, again, a great GPU for anybody out there that wants to get into gaming or wants to get into any type of even you can even stream on it. It works really well for that sense. So no, not yet. I'm too broke for a PC giveaway just yet. But when it happens, I will certainly let you guys know. Make sure to join Discord so that way you do know when it does happen. Join the Discord. So did I hear CL16? This is a Threadripper. This is the 3970X. This is based on Zen 2, so it's a bit of an older board. Now my gaming rig's a whole different story. This is based on the streaming rig and the production rig, so to say. So don't get the mainstream case. I'm sick of hype. Well, this is not a build for gaming. At 50K yeah, hopefully. I mean, if it does happen, you guys will certainly be the first to know. Just make sure to don't forget to like and subscribe, and we can certainly make it happen one of these days for sure. So far I'm seeing a lot of favorites on the 5080 so far. So it looks like the 5080 is certainly winning the majority of the race. I feel like that certainly makes the most sense, especially in a build like this, since it's a Threadripper. Get the Corsair 4000 DRS. That's not a bad choice. Let's you know what? Let's take a look at the Corsair. So just to let you guys know, you guys could continue voting. I'm just going to switch over to the browser side, so you might not see the poll. If you do, let's see, the 4000 RS, here we go. The RDS. Let's see, I see the RSR, RS, the Forza, okay, DRS, because the fans are the RS. And that's something I got to swap out too, is those fans. So best prices, least bad talked about compared to the, I agree. It's certainly the best pricing when it comes to GPUs, because at least it's under $1,000. That's really hard to beat. It really is. So far, 5080 is certainly winning the race from what it seems like. So again, you guys can continue voting. We're just switching over to the browser side. Oh, you guys can't see the screen? Oh no, I'm just switching over now. I apologize for that. There you go. Yeah, so it decided to swap over with it. I know on the mobile side you might not see it, but this is it. The 4000. I know there's like a delay in the chat, so I do apologize for that. So, if anything, just to let you guys know, there is a slight delay, so I will certainly respond to it. From what I have heard, the 5090 is mostly AI when it comes to FPS. Yes. It's mostly, that's what it is. It's mostly AI. It's not really going to be that extreme of a difference. I honestly, if anybody can certainly tell you out there that has a 5090, more than likely does not turn on their frame gen because it just takes away from the gaming experience. The only way, you know what? It's funny. I always forget about this, Epic, and that's the fact that when I go and open up the streams here, you have to turn it on ultra low latency. Currently, I have it set into I think it's like regular latency or something like that. If I set it to ultra low latency, I got to do it the next time I stream and remember. So 5080 or 5090 frame. So 5080 is honestly the best bang for the buck ATM at the moment because of the price drops. Honestly, if you buy it used, refurbished, or from a trusted seller, it's a no-brainer. Absolutely agreed with that. Now take a look. So we could go into a 4000D case. I think this would certainly make the most sense in a Threadripper build. Currently, ironically, my Threadripper build sits on the floor. In fact, I got my camera here. I'll just show you guys. In fact, I could swap over. It would be technically the Jonah cam, but I'll turn it on real quick so you guys could actually see it. Let me see. The Jonah cam. Right here. I'll show you guys what it looks like because it's been through everything, this PC. It's been the most amazing PC, I have to say, when it comes to this. Let's see. Here we go. Jonah cam. And let me turn it on. Oh, it's not plugged in. Okay. I'll definitely show you guys the next time for it. Can it hold up to 10 fans? Let's find out. So this is how it looks. So if it can hold up to 360 in the front up here, it looks like it can hold up 3 in the front. You can put 3 in the back and 3 on the top. So about 9. No, 10, 11. You can put up to 11 fans max if you wanted to on this thing. So it's definitely an excellent choice for that sense. So front ports on the lower part is good. Absolutely. Does that possibly limit the motherboard options? Not necessarily when it comes to that. Because the thing when it comes to the whole motherboard options, this won't really affect it as much. It just depends on the type of motherboard that you have. So I wouldn't really worry about any type of it. I wouldn't worry about it affecting the motherboard as much. It just depends on the type of motherboard that you choose to get. Now, this is what I really do like about the 4000D is this whole shiftable rail up here. That is dope. You can actually shift it from 120 millimeter fans or over to 140 to 160 millimeter fans. So you can actually adjust for larger fans if you like. So you don't have to stick to a certain size of fan onto the system. And 140 is certainly good enough for anybody out there who wants a more silent build because 120 millimeters will always ramp up in RPM. And the reason being is because they're so small that they're trying to push the airflow out, while the larger ones are trying to push the airflow out, but at a much lower speed because you have larger fins practically spinning to pull the air out or pull the air in. So I need a cheap ATX black. I don't give a damn about how it looks. I need airflow. This is the perfect one then, Alex. Like, so it's something like the 4000D would certainly do it. Because the 4000D is all about airflow when it comes to their cases here. So up here onto the top. No, this is the bottom now. This is what I really need. You know what's funny? Like, I hooked up my 3.5 millimeter jack into the case, and then I ended up like kicking it, ends up like breaking, so that doesn't work. So that's another thing that's a negative currently about the case. I accidentally ended up like practically breaking that part off of it. And at least this Corsair 4000D case would certainly have USB-C. That's a nice advantage. This motherboard always had it. It's a shame that I never really took advantage of it ever since I put this PC built together. So cramming a 9070 XT into a small case, using it for 120, it could be done. Another way to flex on SSDs is the new GPUs with the SSD slots, the 5080 Pro Art with its fancy Gen 5 SSD port. Oh yeah, yeah, that is a good point. Imagine putting a MSI Frozer SSD on it. You'd be the first person to see. Yeah, that's true. The SSD sag, thanks. Yeah, oh man, that's too funny. Yeah, that is true. Will it get very loud? Not necessarily. No, this case you could get it for, I think it's like $100. It's only $100 for this case. It's affordable and it certainly does the job. Now it not only adjusts the rails on the top of the case, but you could actually adjust the rails on the front of your PC case. Now, slight tune down or up with the headphones on. Which Threadripper do you have? No, I only have the 3970X. So unfortunately, it's the Zen 2. So it's a bit older. In fact, I could even show you a picture of what it looks like. This is my I'll open up another tab so you guys can see. This is my Threadripper here. Right here. It's this guy. There it is. That's it right there. It's the Zen 2. So it's nothing crazy. I thought about doing this whole other Threadripper build, which would be insane, but I am not wanting to spend that kind of money on RAM right now. It's too insane. It just doesn't make any sense. It's just not viable. Does it 50? Does it? I'm trying to catch what you say, Alex. Montech XR is amazing with the 9070 XT Nitro because case fans blow the 12-watt connectors. Oh, cool. Yeah, isn't it? It's pretty dope. But the Montech XR, amazing with the 9070 XT Nitro. Montech, we're going to put that in. How many cars? And that's the thing. It's gonna feel like it's gonna cost like as much as a car. That's the problem with it. That's not what we want there. We don't want the cost of a car. For anybody remember Project? There you go. Montech XR wood. All right, let me get off the wood subject there. So, the Montech XR, that actually looks pretty decent. Oh my god, almost reminds me of those Lian Li cases. Very similar to it. It looks just like it. That whole fish tank vibe. You know, a case that I really want to build on really badly is the Corsair 5400. Really bad. Because I really like the fact of those triple chambers. That's amazing. That would be something we can do in the near future. We'll definitely do something like this. But this wouldn't go in the Threadripper. It wouldn't make any sense to. I feel like this belongs definitely more on like a gaming rig for sure. I bet my CPU has better silicon. It probably does. Not gonna make it. Being not gonna make it fair. Get the 1000D. Okay, let's see. Corsair 1000D. Corsair 1000D. Here we come. Obsidian 1000D Super. Wow, that's insane. That would look pretty wild. That's actually pretty nice. It's tall as hell though. I do like it though. I'm not gonna lie. I do like how it has the two USB-C ports and they glow, so I can see where I'm plugging it in. Because this room obviously is not that bright. So it's like Lian Li, but half the price. Absolutely. You know, Montech's actually really good. On that 9070 XT build that we did was based on a Montech build. Due to RAM prices, many people picked a case that is cheaper than the 5400. I bet. I certainly bet they did. Because that 5400, the thing I'm attracted mostly about it is the whole triple chambers. That's what really attracts me about that case. That you could actually cool, it would go great, especially on BTF builds because it cools the PSU, most importantly. So it cools your GPU, your CPU, and your power supply practically. But this case really honestly doesn't look bad. It's funny because they just show you how massive this case is, but again, they're not showing you what other, is that a power button back there? That's wild. They even got a power button back on in the back of the case there, if you guys could see that. That's pretty funny. And it comes with some exclusive, okay, so USB 3, 2 USB-C ports, and it comes with the audio, and of course everybody's favorite pins to plug in is the power ports right there. Is 18 fans enough? Because that's that's way plenty. 18 fans is plenty on this. Worth it if you're the consumer who would need such good temps. Absolutely. This would be great temperature wise. Build quality, it has those filters in there. Let me see. Yeah, that's wild. So it's $314 for this. So it's the ultimate super tower PC case with the tempered glass design, smart lighting, and fan controls. And you know what's funny? Also, I failed to mention too, the Threadripper. It's based on an eATX. I mean, it's an extended ATX, so it's a bit larger than the standard ATX. So imagine the dust if you left it running for weeks. That thing would look terrible. It would probably. It almost looks like a vacuum cleaner. Like the way it would just like suck it up. It really would, because just imagine how much could really get in there. It would look practically like what you would dump into the dust you would dump into the trash. Are you water cooling the Threadripper? No. The reason why is because I've already had it since about early 2020. And we're almost going into 2026. So it's almost 6 years old right there. It's a bit older. The Arctic extender can carry that motherboard. Check it out. And you know, that was also the reason why I was thinking of doing this like whole new build when it comes to Threadrippers, is because again, it's just the only reason why I would is it's not because it's not running bad, but it's because I want to make sure to stay up to date when it comes to this PC. But again, you can see how great it's running. The cores still run excellent. You're talking about, okay, just to describe the 3970X to you guys. The 3970X is a 60, it goes up to, this one's 32 cores and up to 64 threads. So there you go. It has plenty of multitask ability, and that is why it is the main production and the main streaming centric PC. So actually, like if we do a gaming stream, it would just connect into the gaming PC. So, but I definitely want to do that for you guys, because I know you guys want to see that. Like do like some Battlefield 6 gameplay or something. That would be fun. So can normal AIOs fit? Not exactly, because the way the AIOs are, like when it comes to the Threadrippers, they're like about that large. No kidding. They're like that big. So you have to make sure you get a AIO cooler where it actually will cover the surface area. They could if you put your own. Yeah, that's true. If you make your own contact, you could always do that. You just have to make your own cold plate practically to sit on top of the Threadripper. It wouldn't be horrendous, but it could be done. It certainly could. But what I actually have on there, it's actually not that bad of a cooler. It's actually Deep Cool's AIO fits really well on there with no issues. Ran great through the system, no problems. I've thought about swapping it out again. It's like, but practically it's like rebuilding a PC at that point, because it's like, do I really want to add more RAM capacity? I know the GPU would be plenty, because I can just transfer the GPU over to the new build, so that won't be an issue. It's more so when it comes to the RAM, it's pretty much legacy, and it's higher price than it should be. And then the same thing when it comes to like everything else that is inside the board. The only thing I can really transfer over is the M.2. I can transfer those over with no issues. But obviously you're going to want to upgrade them if you're going to be like on a brand new type of build. Manually apply dry ice. That would be great, right? You know, they say dry ice makes some great contact there. As a standard Threadripper is basically 4 CPUs fused into one big monster. Yeah, practically. It really is. And the funny thing is, when you install them, they're actually not really hard to install. They're actually pretty fun. I like installing Threadrippers because it's just like, it slides into like a plate, and then you close it. You just lock it into place. And they actually come with like this mini torque wrench that it comes with, and it clicks every time you tighten each bolt down. So once it clicks, you know it's in there just tight enough. You don't want to over torque it, because if you do, you can obviously damage it. So I'm so happy it's not a thermal. Can you imagine that? We put a Thermalright assassin on a Threadripper. I wouldn't, honestly, that would be very difficult for me to trust that. It would certainly be fun. Like if we knew that this PC was going, I would just do it. I would just throw it on there just to see how well it would cool. Thermal Grizzly Cryonut Extreme versus Duronut. But those are both great thermal paste right there. Now, you missed my message, but I can use a PA. Oh, I apologize, Rugal. You missed my message, but use a PA602 EATX case. It's nice, aerodynamic, but I'm not sure how good it would be for a Threadripper. Honestly, you know, it's funny because you weren't the only one that actually mentioned this to me. The PA602. We'll look that up real quick. PA602 EATX. Oh man, not bad. And this is a ProArt case too. And ironically, this is like, I always look at the ports now, because that is what I care about, like when it comes to something like this now. That's not too bad. Oh, that's actually pretty nice, actually. So I have the Cryonut Extreme, worth every penny. You know, I do have to reapply the thermal paste. That's the next thing I got to do with the Threadripper. That is one thing I do certainly need to do. Because, honestly, I've been slacking on that, because the last time I applied thermal paste was when I first installed it. So you're talking about like 5 years ago. That thermal paste is definitely like pretty dried out now. I got to do it. I just have been, honestly, I've been lazy. Are those 180 millimeter fans? I'm curious. Or are they 140? Because that probably runs nice and silent. I do like that side of it. That's not a bad case. But the Obsidian has that 2 USB-C ports. That really does attract me too. Be Quiet Dark Horse 4 on the Threadripper would honestly be viable. All right. Let's take a look at Dark Horse. Dark Horse 4. Let's see. Worst best all pro art build when it comes for video. So if you're trying to do a best all pro art build, possibly when doing video, you're talking about like as in specification wise, it's dual 200 millimeter. Oh wow, that's even bigger than I thought. That's insane. It can get a bit loud on extreme conditions. Oh, really? I wouldn't think they would get that loud. Because usually the larger fans, you can get pretty quiet. It's Dark Horse. Let me add that in real quick. So now I'm getting the Mustang. I know that's not what we're looking at here. That's a whole nother conversation there. Be quiet. I wonder if that would work on it. No, like a future video. Oh, okay. I gotcha. Yeah, that's a great idea. I'll definitely keep that in mind. I'll copy the text actually right now. Because I really, anything you guys mention, I always take into consideration here, and I'll throw it into my notes. Because everybody's opinion certainly does matter. There we go. Beautiful. So if anybody's just joining in, make sure to, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel. Fortunately, I gotta get going. Make sure to catch my live stream up here on Saturday. I always go live between 8 a.m. Eastern time, and I usually stream them for about a couple hours too. So make sure to join in on that live as well. Make sure to join in the free Discord. It's right in the description box down below for everybody that is either on X or on Twitch. Make sure to go to chrismizo.com, click the Discord icon there, and that will take you into the server. So I appreciate everybody for coming in. thank you guys so much for coming in, and I do appreciate you all. And we'll definitely take a little bit more thought when it comes to this PC build. For sure. Okay. If you guys need the Discord link, and also I got to fix that prompt because I did have it, but let me go ahead and go here so you guys can actually get the actual prompt, the link. Hopefully it sends through. Let me know if it doesn't. If it doesn't, again, I'll show you how to get there. It's really not hard. It's there we go. Right here. Let me copy this and there we go. Wait, that's not right. Oh, I know. There we go. Now we should be good. Thank you, Springtime. There we go. That's the link. Got it for you guys. I will fix that prompt for you guys later. I thank everybody for coming in. I really appreciate all of you. Hopefully you guys had a great time. I certainly did. I wonder if anybody... It's funny because I thought the Steam machine would be a big deal. It seems like nobody really cares as much about it. Thank you, Frozen. Thank you, Springtime. Thank you, Kieran. Thank you, Rugal. Thank you all for coming in, guys. Thank you, LSG, especially. You've been a great supporter. Thank you, Alex. Thank all of you guys. Shout out to Ernesto. Thank you. Thank you, sorry.